Welcome back to another snapshot of Rob's car dealing misery. I have bought a C63 6.2 litre V8, beautiful car. Bought it from a subscriber. I had my delivery driver Tony go and pick up the car and he has missed something crucial. Now, I think I might be overthinking it, but I'd like to know what you think. This could cost me a lot of money to put right, and it's whether or not a customer is going to notice or whether or not I can craftily get away with it. So today, we're going to get out in it, touch it, feel it, rev it, listen to it, but crucially, I want your feedback as to whether or not you think I'm being too picky and whether or not I should be spending all the money I'm about to spend on putting this C63 right. Are we ready? So welcome back. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all the usual sort of jazz. This isn't Tony's fault. I want to just caveat that before I go anywhere with this car. And I also don't think it was the previous owner's fault either. But there is something on here that has kind of alarmed me. I think it's okay, but it's whether or not a customer's going to be all right with it or whether or not I need to rectify it. So we're going to have a look around it and see whether or not you can spot the problem. Because if you can and be honest in the comments, that's going to direct me exactly where I need to go. And bearing in mind that sometimes something on camera looks worse than it does in the flesh. And I'm hoping you might have already spotted it. Have you not? No? Okay, we'll have a look around it. So, front of the car's really nice condition. There's nothing sort of major on here that jumped off the page. All the bonnet lines are good. Every line on this car is right. It's how it should be. Now, this is the problem with buying stuff from a distance and not looking at it yourself. You don't get a chance to get under it and have a proper look. But I will give you a bit of a clue. There's some damage on this car. Have a look down this side. Is there anything that you can see? Now, the other thing that I'll point out as well is the wheels are wrong, which was not a concern. It would be a concern potential on some cars, but for me, I know that these C63s, the 19-inch wheels that come on them, are basically made out of chocolate. They all break, they all crack, they've all been welded. The fact that these wheels have been changed doesn't surprise me. So have a look at the back of the car, see if there's anything that's alarming on the back here. Again, a couple of bits for me that sort of, I don't like it, do not like these tints on the rear lights at all. I think they look absolutely awful. However, easy to rectify, just peel the paint film off. I'm being really critical here. It's a lovely car, but yeah, yeah, I'm a little bit worried. Worried and not worried. So, if there's nothing that you've seen so far, I am going to tell you what it is, but I'm going to drag it on a little bit because that's how I roll. It's on Pilot Sport 4s, which is great. The service history, which is great, It's got 2 keys, which is great. So everything is great about this car. Now, when I spotted this damage, I obviously did a vehicle score check on it, and yes, I'm going to talk about that because I was actually more alarmed when I did the check on vehicle score. So I typed it into my phone, put the reg in, and the first thing that happened is it came up and gave me a score of about 500 out of 999, which is alarming. That's a free check that you can do. Now I thought, I'm going to have to pay for a check here and look into this car in a bit more detail. And this is what the check has shown me. So, it is a Mercedes C63 AMG, automatic, 7 gears, etc. We know the car. Shows me how many owners it's had, which is fine, that adds up. No taxi records, etc. However, it does say there's been plate changes on the car, which again, is fine, not a problem. There are some red flags on this car, which worried me. Vehicle's over 10 years old. Might be reliability issues, that's fine, we know that. It's like that with a brand new car, so it doesn't really matter if it's 10 years. These tend to be quite reliable. Touch wood. So, there have been major comments on the MOT history as well over the past few years. Mainly those rear wheels have been cracked in the past, but also it's got a VIN number mismatch. Now, this was the bit that kind of really worried me, and the first thing we've done when this car's come in is we've ripped it apart looking for the original VIN numbers, and it does match. You sometimes get this with cars where if they've had a private plate on them that have moved to different private plates, sometimes it pulls a VIN number from an old private plate through, but this has just kind of been belts and whistles. So I think what we're going to do is get out in it, road test it, see what you think of it out on the road. I don't want to be disheartened by this car, but I'm partly thinking, do I trade it out? Or do I keep it, or do I repair it, or whatever? So let's get out on the road, tell me what you think of it, and then we'll come back in here and I'm going to reveal the damage on this car. You couldn't write this. Go to take it out, and immediately it starts raining. I love these cars, but there are a lot of things that I hate about these cars, and I'm going to talk you through absolutely everything. No holes barred as to the things that I dislike about C63. However, there are plenty of things that I do like. Ooh. Just make sure we've got some temperature in this, and we will get out on the open road and hopefully not light up the back end too much with that little bit of drizzle we're just having now. Okay, so we're out on the open road in the C63, and I'm going to start off with the things that I like about this car. I'll start off with a couple of things. I'll tell you some dislikes, and I can tell you why it's forgiven. So let's not forget, I've lived with one of these cars for 2 years, so I do know all the little quirks and all the little good things and bad things. But the one thing that I like most about it they are barbaric, absolutely barbaric, these things. Nothing sounds quite like a C63 6.2. There just isn't anything. I mean, I do like the, the American muscle cars, stuff like that, but this has kind of got that cackle and rasp to it, and it just sounds otherworldly. I love it, absolutely adore it. And that is the saving grace on this car for everything that is annoying about it, and I'll talk you through the annoying stuff. So first of all, the build quality isn't amazing. So the dashboard is a little bit creaky and rattly. It drives you insane. Some are better than others. I've sold loads of these through the business and obviously owned one myself long term. Some don't really rattle, some rattle quite badly, some have got a little creak. It's just annoying. The new ones I think are actually worse because they've got that stupid iPad screen stuck on the dashboard, and it just sort of creaks. It's all a bit creaky and a bit annoying. This is something that really, really winds me up, is the fact that on the dashboard it says 6.3 litre V8. Now when I first bought mine I was like, oh, that's amazing, it's just reminding you of the engine size. But it's wrong. It's a 6.2. So a C63 is called a C63, and it's something to do with paying homage to a race car that used to run so many years ago or whatever that had a 6.3 litre engine. Now they couldn't do it on the cars that they put into production because they couldn't get the bore size large enough. It was going to be a detriment to the structural integrity of the block or something like that, so they had to do a 6.2. But they ran with the name 6.3 or 63. I see why they did it, for marketing reasons. It's not as annoying as the gearbox in this thing though. So I'm going to run through some gears here, and I'm hoping you can see them, but you can hear the click of it and then when it drops in. So we're in fourth here, I'm going to down change to third. Down change to second, and you might be able to hear it a little bit better. It is slow. It's like really slow. I know that the new Lotus Emira got a load of abuse because the gearbox on the automatic one, which is funnily enough, I think it's an AMG product as well, it was just really slow, so when your paddle was coming back out it'd be changing gear. This is even worse. Your paddle comes out and you're still waiting for that gear change. Again, it's forgiven because of the sound of it. You sort of get over it, and also you kind of learn a car and you go, I know I'm going to need to down change in 20 minutes, so I will pull it now. Such a shame. Such a shame. They don't do a manual one either. But then again, I think a manual one might be a little bit too archaic. However, all is forgiven for the reasons why you would love to buy a C63. First of all, that engine is something else. It sounds incredible. Now the fuel economy people talk about in these. Now I drove it into work the other day, and I've got kind of like, call it a 10-mile run into work, and there's a little bit of country road, and this, funnily enough, we're on my route into work here, some country roads, etc. So you can kind of get a decent fuel economy if you're not driving stupidly. I averaged 21, and I don't think that's that bad for a 6.2 litre engine. I really don't think that's offensive at all. I love how thuggish these cars are. So they've got that kind of battle axe mentality, haven't they? Anyone could own one of these. I owned it when I was a financial advisor, and it worked for me. Or if you sling pharmaceuticals around your local council estate, you could also own one of these as well. They kind of fit every creed and culture and every job description going. They just work. I think the great cars, and anyone who's into cars, when they see one of these, they know. You know, they know. Everybody knows that you've got something a little bit special. So I love that about it. I like the way that the interior is old-fashioned. It's got buttons and dials. I like when you're Bluetoothing your phone in, you listen to music and you want to change a track. There is a button on the dashboard to change the track. You don't have to go into a menu system or, heaven forbid, a touch screen. I also like the fact that you can knock it into neutral while you're driving. So I did this on a test drive when I first test drove one of these at Mercedes. So you're driving past the local pub and all your mates are sat outside. Oh, mates are there. Look at me. And then you're off again. They thought about that. Even the Germans have thought the British are going to buy this and they're probably going to want to rev it for no apparent reason whatsoever. Correct. Great move on that side of things. I love the fact that the sport settings on the car as well are dead easy to use. You just turn a button, you're into sport or sport sharp, which is really aggressive. But I like the fact that when you go into it, it doesn't immediately down change it and make it feel ridiculous. Just lights up there saying you're in sport, and you know that when you put your foot down next, it's going to be a bit of an animal. I really and honestly truly love these cars in every way, shape or form. It's such a shame, isn't it, that cars like this are becoming extinct and obsolete, and it's all to do with the way that the world's going. And I owned a turbocharged one, you know, one of the newer ones after this, and it wasn't the same. It didn't sound as good. I mean, it didn't have the exhaust button on it, and I know that having driven both now, that really is a game changer, but it still didn't quite sound the same. It was a bit of a crying shame. For me, I do wonder what you can buy for this sort of money. I mean, this would be 20 odd grand. You can pick rough ones up. There's one that came up on trade recently, and I know he's got it advertised retail. It's £15,000. It's a coupe. It's done 130,000 miles, but it's 15 grand. What else are you buying? Hey up. Hello, you all right?
Yes, fine, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Good to see you. Cheers, thank you. Absolutely no idea who that lady was. It's she's just a mad member of the public. I love that. Definitely not into cars. That wasn't a petrol head for sure. So yeah, it's a crying shame that these things are going. I do think that as an investment car, probably not a bad shout. I don't think you're going to lose a lot of money. They had a point where they sort of peaked up and then came back down again. There's still a lot about, so they're never going to be like this rare collectible. But I do think you're going to struggle to find much else for 20 grand that's probably going to hold its money fairly well, give you the sort of fun that this is going to give you. The servicing costs aren't ridiculous on it. They do require gearbox services every now and again to keep up with that fast gear change, ironically. But overall, a very special car, and I love it. Every time I get one in, I tend to keep it for about a month. I love the way it cackles as well on the downshift. You know, so if you're coming down the hill and you sort of knock it down just slowly, it's only sort of 2,000 revs, it just goes blah, 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 blah. Fiver, fiver, fiver. Love it. Anyway, I'm going to enjoy my little blast back to the showroom now, and then we're going to have a quick wrap up and finish off. I absolutely love them, and I'm hoping that you appreciate that drive. They are amazing. I'm going to continue to drive this for as long as I possibly can before I have to send it through prep. If you haven't spotted it already, just have a look at that driver's door and tell me if that seems right to you. I think it's the wrong colour. In fact, I know it's the wrong colour because that door has definitely had paint. If you look at the wing at the front and the door, the wing is definitely a brighter white to the door. Now, it's really difficult to spot this sort of stuff, but I see stuff fairly, I like to think I see cars fairly well, and honestly, I'm not massively concerned. If it was the front end that was all the wrong colour, I'd be really, really worried. But with it being the driver's door, lots of cars have had paint, and it is 12 years old, and that is a big door, and he might have opened it onto something and whatever. I don't think it's anything to be overly concerned about. The big problem with this car is it is a pearl paint. So in order to get that door right, I'm going to have to blend it, paint the whole door, blend it into the rear quarter, and blend it into that front wing. That's where whoever's painted this door has gone wrong in the first place. And unfortunately, that basically means painting the entire side of a pearlescent performance car, which isn't really up my street. So I kind of don't know what to do. I do know what to do. I'm thinking I'm going to paint it. But then the other question is, do I just leave it as it is? So, as usual, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you can put my mind at rest on this and say, oh, I didn't notice that until you spotted it, or I can't even see it now you've pointed it out. But I've got a sneaky feeling the eagle-eyed subscribers on there probably spotted this as soon as I started talking about it. So, thank you again for joining me. Really appreciate it. If you're not subscribed already, please do turn the bell icon on, and I will see you on the next one when we talk about what we've ended up doing with this C63, which probably won't be the next one, but it'll be coming. Cheers.